Okay. And so we're recording the session so we can make it available on our YouTube, CTAR YouTube channel later. And I'll put that link in the chat in just a bit. And I'll also be sending the link out to everyone who registered for this later. So if you want to share it with anybody or go back to it in the future, you can with no problem. So this evening, it's my great pleasure to introduce our alumni expert, Maria Aihara-Sasaki. She graduated from CTAR in 2017 with her MS in entomology. And her journey has given her 20 plus years of experience working with termites in Hawaii. And now she's actually working as a personal trainer and coach with her own health and wellness business. So she'll probably walk us through a little bit of how that transition happened and how she's making both work in her life right now. So I went ahead and sent Maria the questions that were sent in with your registration forms, and she'll be starting off with those. But please feel free to add any others in the chat as we go along, and I'll open it up for you to ask more questions in the end if we have some time at the end as well. So without further ado, let's meet our alumni expert, Maria.
Hello, I'm Maria Aihara-Sasaki. About a month ago, Jesse contacted me and asked me to be the alumni of the month. So I agreed, and I guess we came, she gave me a whole bunch of termite questions, and I love talking termites, so I agreed to do this Zoom session, and looking forward to being able to provide whatever information that might be useful for everyone and their homes. Okay, I'm going to see if I could make this work. There we go. So Jesse first asked me if I could talk about how I came to work with termites at the university. So my background, I was originally got my BA in the zoology department. My advisor then, Dr. Sheila Conan, encouraged me to work with insects just because mammalian research was so difficult and there were so many obstacles to overcome. And she introduced me to her brother, Pat Conant, who was at HDOA at the time. And that's when I got introduced to the entomology department. And after I started there, working, just taking courses for my bachelor's, Dr. Vincent Jones, who I was taking courses from, offered me a position after I graduated. And when I first started in CTAR in entomology, I was working on macadamia nut pests, also lychee and rambutan pests. So I did a lot of field work. And as my position working with macadamia nut came towards an end, I was recruited, fortunately, into doing termite research. And so that's when I met 3 wonderful mentors that I got to work with. The termite lab then had Dr. Minoru Tamashiro and Dr. Julian Yates, who's here on the screen today. Thank you, Julian. And Dr. Ken Grace, who's now happily retired and enjoying grandfatherhood in Texas. So getting sort of directly into termites, I know we received a lot of questions, and I think just kind of giving you a basic background so people have a better understanding of what organisms we're dealing with and what the possible solutions are. So some of the ways to identify, there were a lot of questions about how do I determine if the damage is termites, and if it is termites, is it ground termites, is it drywood termites? So briefly, some of the termite clues that you may find with the issues you're experiencing at home, oftentimes if you have drywood termite infestations in your home, what you'll find is their droppings or frass is sand-like grains. If you're dealing with ground termites, you'll find what we call carton. It looks like cardboard, almost like hardened paper mache with holes in it. And that carton material is associated with ground termites. Oftentimes when you're dealing with drywood termites, you'll find these odd shaped patterns. If you could see on the screen here, when they chew through the wood, they're not uniform size. With ground termites, you'll often see that they've eaten only the softwood in between the layers of wood. So they're more sort of in line with the grain of the wood. Now, if you actually find evidence of alates, which is the adult reproductive individuals of termites, and if you find the wings, that's one good way to identify the difference between drywood termites and ground termites. In drywood termites, what you're going to find is you're going to see the primary veins on the top edge of the wing. And between those, you'll find these finer cross veins that connect the two. In ground termites, you're not going to find those cross veins. So that would normally require some magnification to see, but that's a good way to identify termites by their wings. And again, going back to some of the damage that you can find in the wood that they may be infesting, what you'll find with the drywood termites are these little tiny holes in the wood that look like the tip of maybe the size of the tip of a pencil. And that's where they're going to be pushing their frass out of. And so you could see on the slide, it's next to a dime here. So it's a fairly tiny hole. And associated with that, you should probably find some of the grain-like frass droppings. With the ground termites, it's very different. Again, because they're associated with the ground, you're going to find some soil and these mud tubes. Okay. One of the more common questions we get is fumigation and tenting. There are situations where different species of termites may require different treatments, but most often fumigation and tenting is going to be for drywood termite treatment. And with ground termites, most likely you'll be using baiting systems or soil treatments. Those are the two most common treatments you'll be using. So with that, let me go back to fumigation and tentings. Addressing some of the questions that I received, I think and I get asked this pretty often, is fumigation and tenting effective for drywood termites? The answer to that is yes. It can be effective if applied properly. Unfortunately, people often want to know how long they last. Fumigation basically is effective in that moment. So whatever is under that tent and exposed to the fumigant will be affected, but any termite that comes onto the property after the fumigant has been released is unfortunately not going to be killed by it. So there's no long-term efficacy from fumigation. So sorry about that one. Let's see. And as for ground termites, baiting systems, once they're in the ground and around your home, as long as the termite comes in contact with the baiting system and feeds on them, they'll be effective. So again, there's going to be preferences in what's more effective. It depends on your condition. In some situations, some people believe that soil treatment is more effective because it covers the entire perimeter of your home versus a baiting system that are going to be placed spaced out around that perimeter. So, and again, it depends on your soil condition, the property type, different things. So the best thing to do is contact the pest control company and consult with them what would work best. One frequently asked question, going back to drywood termites. A common treatment that's been advertised over the years is orange oil. And since orange oil is natural and seems safe, a lot of homeowners like to try to use orange oil for their homes. The question is, how effective is it? And does it work as well? Does it replace fumigation and other types of treatment? Unfortunately, if you can get the orange oil to the termite, or if you could fully penetrate the surfaces that termites or the galleries that termites are in, orange oil would be effective. Unfortunately, when you consider the spaces, the surface area of your home, it's really not possible to get a comprehensive coverage throughout your property. For spot treatment, it may work, but the likelihood of reaching the entire colony is very difficult. So that's one of the challenges. Okay, and I'm going now on to, sorry. Oops. The questions that I received from Jesse.
Yes, thank you.
Oops. Yeah, sorry about that. Oh. Okay. So, and if anyone has questions that I haven't covered in the list that Jesse gave me, please feel free to ask me at the end of it. I'm just going to read through these because I received them earlier today. So the one question I received was, my hibiscus and areca palm have been killed from the inside. I see tunnels in the trunks, but no actual insects. How do I tell if this was ground termites, and is my house at risk? As far as live plants go, without seeing the damage or the actual insects, I would not be able to determine what caused the damage. Is there any indication that your house is at risk if there's plants that have been damaged on your property? If there are ground termites in a plant and killing it, it is probably likely that they may be affecting your home. As far as determining what kind of termite, you could potentially place wood stakes around your home to see if you can identify if there are ground termites on your property. But the best advice I could give in that situation is to contact pest control and see if they can identify what the problem is. How does orange treatment work against termites? As I mentioned earlier, orange oil can be effective. The key and the challenge would be to actually get the orange oil to the termite. Unfortunately, the insects are really, really cryptic. They live in pretty complex tunnels. So getting termite oil onto the insect is the biggest challenge. Okay.
So sorry, Maria. So the the termite actually has to like touch them. It's not like something that like, you know, they'll consume and bring back to the nest, or if it's on them, they can't
No.
like go spread it to others with it on them. That's not effective.
No.
They actually have to.
The oils are going to have to come in contact with the individual termite themselves.
And is that something like you were saying you could spot treat? So say somebody found out they had it like in their hibiscus or whatever, could they like spot treat with like those kind of things?
If they could get it to them, but most likely, if you know, termites are not generally found on the surface, crawling on the surface of your wood or on the outside of plants. They're going to create tunnels, and they're going to be under either inside the wood or in the ground. And so in order to actually get the product onto the termite, you'll have to drill and spray, and really to penetrate sufficient area or the colony would be really, really challenging.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Orange oil treatment versus fumigation to control drywood termites. Again, orange oil doesn't really provide comprehensive coverage for your entire property. So anything that it doesn't penetrate would not be affected. As far as fumigation, that is the reason that fumigation is effective, because it can penetrate through in sort of voids. But again, fumigation is effective in that moment if the insects are present. There's no prolonged protection, sort of. So anything that comes onto the property post-treatment wouldn't be affected by fumigation. But it is effective in controlling the drywood termites that are infesting your home if applied properly. And of course, the question is which lasts longer. I guess from the perspective of orange oil remaining on a surface, it would be there longer. But again, if it's not on the termite, it really doesn't matter if it's there for a longer period of time. And as far as fumigation goes, again, it's not really applied to the surface to provide continued protection. It's what it comes in contact with during the treatment period.
Sorry, I have a question for that too. Sorry. And so in your experience, have you ever experienced where like, okay, a homeowner gets fumigated for termites and then like they're back like super quick and they have to like fumigate again, or does in your experience, is there usually like some sort of lag time in between infestations?
Well, so the biology of drywood termites, drywood termite colonies are relatively slow to develop compared to ground termites. And the colony size is much smaller. So in order for drywood termites to cause structural damage to a home would take a good number of years. And the reason that they do cause significant problems for Hawaii homes is when you have multiple colonies within a single home. And the industry standard for fumigation is generally 5 years. The recommended interval for fumigation treatments are about 5 years. So if you've had a thorough fumigation applied to your home is safe for that 5-year period post-treatment, because again, the new termites that may come into your home are going to take at least 3 to 5 years to develop into a substantial colony. And in my experience, I would say it's longer, but again, it's a personal comfortability on how reliable that information is. But again, industry standard is 5 years for treatment for drywood termites.
Thank you.
Mhm. Does anyone else have any other question about fumigation or drywood termite treatments? Feel free to ask me now. No one?
You look good.
Okay. And Julian, if you have anything to chime in, feel free to. Okay. The next question.
No,
Yes,
I have a question.
sure.
I just recently had my home fumigated, maybe recently meaning maybe a year ago before the pandemic. And I just noticed some droppings again. So how can you tell if the droppings are from the old, that was left in the wood, or if it's new droppings?
Okay. That's a tricky question. If the treatment was successful and they had good coverage of your home, it's not likely that the termites would have survived.
Okay.
But if you had drywood termite infestations in your home, those tunnels could still have drywood termite droppings. And if ants, any other insects go into those tunnels, they will move that and the frass will come out. So that could be one of the reasons that you're seeing droppings. And we often heard people call in and say, well, can you tell how old the termites are based on the color of their frass? And that's kind of sort of a, I guess, myth in pest control that they can tell the age of the termites based on the color of the droppings. And there is really nothing to support that. The color of the termite droppings are based on the types of wood they've been consuming. So as far as your question, can we tell the age of the infestation based on droppings? The answer would be no.
So I would probably have to call my fumigation company and ask them to do an inspection again.
Well, what I would do for myself if that was my home is I would try to clean the area the best I can and try to monitor how much droppings you're actually seeing.
Okay.
If you're seeing a lot of droppings, I would definitely contact the pest control company and have them take a look at it. If you're having a few, you're not seeing anything else, it's periodic. I don't know that I would necessarily be too concerned about that situation.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Any other drywood treatment questions?
We got another a question from Kalani.
Okay.
Asking about, can wood chip mulch be a concern for hosting termites? A lot of gardeners ask that.
Yes. That is a big no-no. If you have mulch, I'm not saying you shouldn't have mulch. It's great for gardening. I would definitely not keep it near the home or structures that you wouldn't want termites in. Soil to wood contact is going to encourage termite activity. So as much as possible, keeping that away from structures, and if you can, raising it off the ground termites can still get in, but again, it's not like creating this great, huge, conducive condition right next to your home. And the other thing would be to be aware of the moisture that it's creating, because ground termites, unlike the drywood termites, really like wet water sources, and mulch on the ground tends to retain moisture. So that again becomes a conducive condition. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, and I think the next question I had, if nobody else has questions about drywood treatment, Do termites swarm about the time when there's a full moon? Termites generally swarm during the late May to August, during the summer months, generally when there's very little wind, nice humid evenings, is when they tend to swarm. And I think there was a question about, are they mating? And yes, it's kind of a nuptial flight. So they're trying to find a mate and starting a new colony. Oh, and there's a specific question about many got inside the house by crawling under my second floor lanai glass door. Is there a way to deter them on these swarm nights? There's really, I mean, a couple of things to consider. They're attracted to light. So having the light on would be something that would attract alates to come flying to. Something that people used to do is keep like a pan of water with light reflecting. That'll kind of trap a lot. But also it's important to keep in mind that success rate is very, very low. It's like, I believe it was, it's like less than 2% survival rate for alates post-flight. So with the numbers you're seeing, very little pairs successfully find a place to start a colony. So it's not necessarily a reason for panic. Trying to get rid of any of the termites and keeping them out of the house if you're seeing flight would be probably a good idea, rather than keeping your windows wide open for them to enter your home. But otherwise, yeah, success rate is very low. So, okay. How are termites detected to determine what type of treatment? In general, like I mentioned in the slide earlier, in typical cases for drywood termites, it's going to be spot treatment or fumigation. For ground termites, it's going to be perimeter ground treatment or baiting stations. Let's see.
Sorry, I have another question. So just because you see a swarm like around your house, a big swarm, that doesn't necessarily mean the termites are coming from your area, or could they just be coming from anywhere? They just like to see your light. I mean, how concerned should you really be? I have termites or
right. I mean, if your entire neighborhood has 0 termites flying and it's specifically your home, I would take that into consideration. Yeah. And the other thing, these are not absolutes, because every residential home condition is going to be different. But typically, if you see termite alates flying late at night inside your house, they're more than likely to be drywood termites. Ground termites are going to be swarming usually outside, and they'll be coming into your home, and that's usually towards sunset, dusk. So those are kind of also things to take note of if they're swarming. So yes, if there's a huge swarm inside your house and everything's closed, you probably have a pretty good sized drywood colony in your home.
Okay, good. I haven't had any in the house yet, so that's great. Thank you.
Do you have anything to add, Julian?
Yeah, I just turned my mic on. I think in the cases where you have large numbers of termites swarming in the home, then there's 2 considerations, as Maria indicated. One would be more likely they're drywood termites, because generally that's where they're living, inside your home to begin with. Now, you could have the same thing with subterranean termites. In the case of what we call an aerial colony, one that has no connection to the ground, but has had the success of finding moisture above grade in maybe a part of your home somewheres, and managed to start a colony which you are totally unaware of. It may be inside a double wall or what have you. Now, when that colony matures and generates a sufficient number of individual adults, the winged ones, then they too will swarm inside your home. So the best advice here, of course, would be to try to get these adults identified, to be sure that you're going to be addressing the right species, because their control methods are entirely different. And so that's the point I wanted to make. Make sure that you're dealing with the right insect when you try to attempt some kind of a control method. That's all.
Thank you. So if I have a swarm in my house, it's a good idea to keep some of the bodies to show the inspectors when they come. Don't just throw them all away. Save some.
Yeah, the bodies or the wings, as Maria had showed you earlier, you can tell from the wing venation which species you have. So either will work. I think the wings are more definitive than the body, unless you're pretty akamai as far as identifying the color of the bodies, because one is very dark near black, dark brown near black, and that's the drywood, West Indian drywood termite, whereas the subterranean Formosa termite is more caramel colored, lighter brown. So you can tell from the body color, but I think the wings would do best.
Awesome. Thank you.
Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. The next question is, what is the most effective termite product for spot treating small visible areas by the homeowner? I know that there is a product called Termite, and it used to be a good spot treatment, do-it-yourself kind of spray that you could get at City Mill, Home Depot, hardware places. Unfortunately, I believe that the active ingredient in that product has changed over the years. And I think the current active ingredient is orange oil. And that is, unfortunately, as we talked about earlier, is not the greatest solution to your termite problem as far as addressing control of the colony. So spot treatment, I believe different companies use different products. As far as do it yourself, I do not know, unfortunately. Termidor had started to do some research on using it for drywood termites and spot treatments, and there was a formulation which was foam and dust that can be applied as a spot treatment. I know Julia might be able to give you some information on that. I don't know personally, because the research at the university kind of ended right about that time. that I don't have further information on the labeling for the state. So that might be something that you, if you are interested, you may be able to contact HDOA and ask them about the labeling for the Termidor foam and dust applications for drywood termites.
Yeah, you can call the pesticide branch at the Department of Ag. I can't give you any more information than you have, because I know they came out with a dust, and a foam, but
Mhm.
as to what the status is right now on availability on the market. And anyway, those products would more than likely be restricted to pest control operator use only.
Yeah.
In other words, the homeowner would probably not be able to buy it unless you brought it in from Mexico or wherever, but
On the internet.
yeah. So,
But if there is a Termidor application and through pest control, if it is labeled and available, Termidor is an effective product
yeah.
for that application.
Mhm. From what I know, yes.
Yes.
But the thing is, they came up, I kind of fooled around with it when it first came out. And the thing that I was against, of course, is that the company manufacturer, was promoting it for drywood I'm sorry, subterranean termite spot treatments.
Yeah.
And this is another ball to talk about, because the fact that when you do spot treatments with a dust-like substance, as the Termidor dust was, it'll get on the termites, but the termite itself, or the colony, individuals in the colony, have a very strong defensive behavior, where if any of these particles got onto the bodies of nestmates, the untreated ones will kill off those and ultimately make the treatment useless, because the ones that have been treated no longer can, walk around in a colony and contaminate other nestmates. So that theory I was very much against, but that's all I can say. I don't know whether they actually put it on the market or not. But these are the kinds of things you got to watch out for.
So
Okay, I'm done.
So there's a lot of biology behind the drywood termites and ground termites, which make the treatment and identification important and also very different. So
Yeah.
and that's why Julian and I previously used to offer workshops through the community schools, just so homeowners could get more information. And there is a lot of publication through CTAR that lot of research, again, through Dr. Tamashiro, Dr. Yates, Dr. Grace has published that provide a lot of these practical information that would be useful if you are interested in learning more about them. Or maybe if, CTAR hosts it, there might be, Julian and I used to do like a 2-hour workshop. We'll pull them back in from retirement.
Bring the roadshow back.
No. We'll let the young ones do that.
Okay. Next question. Will aerosol insect bomb get rid of termites in a small wooden shed? Would covering with a tarp help? It may. It could work. Again, I think the important part is to review the label and make certain that whatever bomb you're using is labeled for termites. And if you can get the termite to contact whatever product you're using, it should be effective. And as far as bombs, fumigation type products, applying the tarp help, it probably would. But again, it would really depend on the labeling of the product. So I would say if you have an infestation and a small wooden shed, if you are looking to eliminate termites, I would contact pest control and find out what might be the next step for that. is there a non-destructive method to determine extent of existing termite infestation? There have been over the years many methods like X-ray and ultrasound type equipment that people have used to try to locate and identify termite infestations. Unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to determine the actual ID of the species behind detecting movement in your home. So really the only real way to determine if you have termite damage is to identify droppings or evidence that they've left around your home, or actually finding the insect. And with cryptic species, finding the insect generally means breaking into pieces of wood that they're living in. Are there any home remedies to keep termites away? Yes, and it depends what you define as home remedies. As I said earlier, soil to wood contact would be a big no-no for subterranean ground termites, because again, they eat the wood and they live in the ground. So when those two come together, then you're likely to introduce ground termites into your home. Remedies as far as getting rid of them, not really. The best I could recommend is to prevent them from getting into your home and reducing all of the conducive conditions, like removing plants a little further away from your home, not introducing moisture. If you have any leaks or wet spots in your home, trying to remedy that situation so that you keep things dry. Those are the types of things. Reducing conducive conditions that encourage termite infestation would be the best way as a do-it-yourself prevention. Let's see, are there any types of wood that termites do not like? Yes, Dr. Grace has done many studies on this. Unfortunately, the species of wood that termites dislike, it's generally the heartwood. So when you look at an older piece of wood, cross section of the wood, the center part, the heartwood, would be the area that the termites really avoid. Unfortunately, in home construction and pieces of lumber, you're not going to have pieces of wood that are made strictly of heartwood. So from a practical perspective, people believe for a long time redwood is termite resistant, sort of. But we've, over the years, I'm sure Julian has seen more than I have, but we have seen redwood fences that have been completely demolished by termites. So I would not recommend relying on wood species to be the deterrent for termites. Let's see, is there any way to save termite-eaten wood? Anything to inject into door frames or termite-eaten wood to preserve structural integrity? If I would say that first you would have to determine how much of the structure has been damaged. If there's structural damage, it's probably best to replace those pieces, because you may not know the extent that they have. If you're seeing significant damage, more than likely there's going to be more extensive damage that you can't see on the surface. So having a contractor, pest control, determine the extent of damage would be the best in that situation. A friend has a condo with cabinets which were imported from Asia infested with termites. They have been battling the infestation for a few years. Do you have any recommendations for eradication? This is one that I think Julian and I have encountered on numerous occasions. People have, there have been a number of cases where people have claimed that the wood that was brought in from China and other countries came infested. We found that it's really, really difficult to determine if the material had been infested from their place of origin or local contractors who brought them in, kept it in their garage or warehouse or in their backyard for months to years, which created the infestation prior to having them installed in condos or homes. So unfortunately, again, with cryptic insects, to determine when the infestation started and where they came from is very, very difficult. And as far as treatment goes, I would strongly recommend, if there is a infestation that's been going on for years, to contact pest control and have them probably fumigation or spot treatment if it's isolated, or even replacing, contacting the company that had the cabinets and finding out if replacement is a possibility. Okay, that's the last of the questions that I have on hand. Are there any other questions or comments? No? Oh, I think I got one.
Well, it only means you did a good job, Maria.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope that answered everyone's questions, or at least it was useful.
I have a question. Sorry if I missed
Sure.
it.
No, not at all.
Are you involved with those so-called termite plots at the some of our stations like Urban Garden Center and?
Yes. Well, we used to do a lot of research at all of the experiment stations.
They just look like concrete blocks on the ground, right? I mean, what
Uh-huh.
are they? What's going on in there?
So those were some of the treatment products that we were testing over the years. And we were looking at the longevity, and we had plots on Oahu, various locations on Oahu, as well as the outer islands. And it was sort of a comparative study of based on different conditions, being exposed to the elements, rainfall, and different things that we tracked over time.
Awesome, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So Barbara was asking about the orange oil and if it,
Oh, okay.
it works. Yeah. And she must, I think she missed the first part.
Oh, okay. So yes,
Okay.
I mentioned earlier, orange oil, if you can get them to the termites, it will kill them. And like it would kill other insects as well. Unfortunately, termites are really pretty cryptic. They stay hidden in their tunnels quite well. And so application for termites, if you contact any company that's using termite orange oil, they would be drilling in to try to get the oil to penetrate. But as you can imagine, if you look at the structure of your home, drilling and trying to get a oil to penetrate throughout the surface is really rather challenging. And so the uneven coverage, and it could suppress the termites from that area for a period of time. So unfortunately, if it isn't specific, targeted, and applied to the colony, you may be just pushing them to a different location in your home.
Yeah, sorry, I had the incorrect start time written down on my calendar.
No problem.
So I have a self-serving question. All my hibiscus hedge and one of my areca palms have died or are dying because something is eating them from the inside, and I don't see any insects. And I checked, it's not the rhino beetles. My fear is that might it be ground termites, and might they be heading to my house if they've eaten all the tender, juicy things?
Okay. Generally, first off, it does happen. Termites do, ground termites have been found in plants. Typically, they're not usually going actively after live, lush plants, sort of. They like dried wood. So generally, that's not to say that that doesn't happen. Termites do attack trees and different layers of trees, so it could be. What I would suggest is to try to see if you can get to the source. If it's killed a plant, to maybe go into, take apart your plant and see if you can find any evidence of insects. Another thing that you could do for yourself as far as detecting ground termite activity around your home is to cut like a 1-foot stake of untreated wood. That's kind of key, because if you go to the hardware store and get treated wood, termites really won't eat it. That wouldn't work. But if you could get untreated wood, pound that stake, 6 inches into the ground, and monitor it periodically around your plant. See if termites do attack that piece of wood. That would give you a clear indication. If you do have ground termites, they will more than likely come and chew on that piece of wood.
May I ask, my mic on? Yeah.
Yeah, you're on.
May I ask what were some of the symptoms of that palm as far as dying?
So the tops fell off, but in the stumps, like the trunks that are left, there's tunnels. And my hibiscus just got ratty and dry and brittle. And when you broke off the dried branches, they had tunnels inside.
When you say tunnels, were they like hollowed out completely, or just sort of complex tunneling patterns in it? Do you have any?
Yeah, like not like entirely hollow with just an outside stem, like tubes inside. But no visible insects.
No, I don't know.
It is something you could contact the pest control company to come and look at it. Unfortunately, based on termite products that are labeled, none of the labels actually chemicals are labeled to apply on plants. So if you have a tree in your on your property that's termite infested, you can't just go and spray it with any termiticide necessarily. But if you do have ground termites, you could see if the company could bait your home, around your home, close enough to the tree. If they're in your tree, more than likely they're going to come to the bait. So that would be one way you can address the plant issue. Are there any other questions?
Another question. So you were sorry.
Sure.
You were talking earlier about how so termites like the dry wood, right? But then you're saying like moisture attracts them, or they like to have, how does that all work?
So what I meant as far as not necessarily dry wood, but dead plants. Dead plant materials is really what termites would go for first. So you don't generally find them attacking your live trees and live plants around your property. And the differentiation between drywood termites and ground termites, drywood termites are typically associated to moisture or water in your home. They don't really need that external water source. Whereas ground termites, you are going to find that they are attracted to any wet spots, moisture, leaks, sprinklers, you know, spraying on the side of your wall, that type of thing. Again, creating that conducive condition to take into consideration when you're looking at your home.
So Barbara, Michelle Au, she's a she's getting her MS in entomology currently as we speak, and she says in the chat that it sounds like it might be wood boring beetles in your plants, so it could possibly be a beetle.
Yeah.
Comparatively good news, I suppose.
It's definitely a pest for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to, so earlier I put in the chat the link to some CTAR information on the termite project. So there may be some publications there as well, if anybody wants to check them out. It's a little bit further up in the chat. And then Steve is asking, is there any truth to saying certain plants like panax attracting termites? No.
Attracting termites. I'm not aware of that. Julian?
No, but I think the tendency has been to, how can I say it? There have been a lot of reports about panics being hit, and I think the only reason for that is the fact that panics hedges at one time, or even till today, have been very common amongst homeowners as a common plant for hedges or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why we get more complaints about that plant than any other. But as far as I'm concerned, one-on-one, I mean, there's all kinds of plants that subs will attack, given the chance. You know, the thing about subterranean termites is, well, here again, some people think their foraging behavior is random, some don't. And I believe it's random, but you know, you may have put a stake somewhere in the ground thinking that, oh, they might be hit by termites because, you know, they're around the surrounding area and there's all the indication they might hit the stake, and they don't. And this goes again back to the Centricon baiting system, where they uniformly put these things around the perimeter of a home at about 8-foot intervals, 6 or 8 foot intervals, and you don't get any hits. And of course, homeowners get all disgruntled about that because why am I paying for all of this and I'm not getting the use of the system? Well, I mean, that's just the beast. I mean, that's the way they forage. And sometimes they hit things that we can't understand, and sometimes they don't. You just got to live with it. I hate to say that, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. And like Julian was saying, I think a lot of plants that are associated with residential landscaping and have moisture sprinklers that are, you know, regularly turned on and creating that condition, that those are sort of factors to consider when there are
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plants and other things being attacked. So
Yeah, minimizing the conducive conditions definitely would be a positive move to make. Lessen the chances.
yeah. And so keeping the immediate perimeter around your home clear and being able to see any termite entry points is a great way to kind of monitor the termite situation around your home. Not to say that they won't come through cracked foundations But again, being more vigilant around your own home is always a great idea.
I have another question.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm the one that had my home fumigated about a year ago. I was just wondering if I did have ground termites in my home and I
Yes.
fumigated,
Mhm.
fumigation get rid of the ground termites too?
So that's actually a tricky question, because as I mentioned earlier, ground termites are associated with moisture and water.
Mhm.
And the fumigant does not penetrate water and moisture. So fumigation is not the recommended treatment for ground termites.
Right, I understand that, but if I did have a colony in my home,
Yeah,
would it get rid of that colony?
no. Again, if you had an isolated aerial colony that wasn't high moisture, there are situations that could be. But if you have ground termites, more than likely you have a ground connection and the colony is going to be underground.
Okay.
And so the likelihood of the fumigant actually penetrating through the soil, through all of that moisture to affect the entire colony, I would say I would not rely on that to be an effective elimination method.
Okay, thank you.
So for the baiting, is that a thing like ants where like they will go eat, some of them will go eat it, or do they all have to eat from that bait in order to kill them, or do they bring it back into the colony?
So as Julian had mentioned earlier, the biology of the insect, they're eusocial insects, and there are behaviors that make it very, very difficult for them. And that's what Julian was talking about earlier when, the dust, they groom each other. And when individuals die, a termite colony will cut off those individuals if they're dying rapidly, if something's going on with the colony. So with the baiting system, what happens is, your first question, no, not all of the termites have to eat it, because the workers are in fact, soldiers and reproductives generally don't feed. It's the workers that are going to be feeding on the wood, the bait, whatever it is that they're feeding on, and they're going to bring that back to the colony. They're going to feed the soldiers, the reproductives, and that's how it gets passed on. And generally with the baiting systems, typically the products are chitin inhibitors. So, but when they molt, they don't harden. That's how they die. And so they're not dying very rapidly. And that's how the baiting system is more effective. I mean, fast enough that they're not going to destroy your home, but not so fast that the colony doesn't isolate them as a problem. Anything to add, Julian?
No. No.
So that's how the baiting system works.
There. Any more
Julian.
questions?
Oh.
Yep. No, go ahead.
We are one of the early adopters that got Centricon.
Uh-huh.
Because when we were having our house renovated many years ago, we had a support beam that was about 12 feet in length and width, It was
Uh-huh.
huge. And half of it was eaten through by termites. So it was a very big scare. So we got Centricon. And I was under the impression that we have stations, but they are baiting them. And when they see an active station, then they treat the ground. Isn't that right?
Yes. Originally, that was the model.
Oh, okay.
So what would happen is they would put pieces of untreated wood into the baiting stations. Once there was termite activity in the stations, that's why you probably had monthly inspections. When they see the termites, they would insert the bait to replace the wood, and that's how it would happen. I believe now, again, it's been a while and there's been product development, and I believe there are systems where they insert the bait directly to reduce the frequency of inspections required. Because again, if you set up the stations and those stations all have baits placed in them, it's not necessary for someone to come and check them monthly and then find the termites, then replace it. They just need to come and check the baits 6 months to a year. It depends on the company, and I'm sure the product and the matrix that they're using for the bait. And when that wears down, is fully consumed, then they would come and replace the baiting system. And Julia might have more up-to-date information.
No. I'm assuming it's still the same.
Yeah. So that's probably, if you adopted the system early, it was the untreated wood and then the baiting system. Over time, they may have changed the method in your home. If you haven't had infestation, they may not have placed the wood, and they may continue with the monitoring with the wood as well. So
Yeah, it has changed. I mean, we've had it over 20 years, and they used to come monthly, and now I think they come quarterly.
Yeah.
And Julian, you're right. You're paying that money for them to stay on top of your house, but you're really happy if you do have an infestation, because you've already prepaid for the treatment, you know.
Yeah.
Better than having your house eaten up, I'll tell you.
That's for sure. Yeah, the baiting system is a very powerful method, but like I said, if the stations don't get hit, then poor homeowner.
So I was fortunate in having multiple mentors. Julian was a strong believer in for prevention, that he felt the perimeter treatment, ground treatment, was the reliable method. Ken Grace, on the other hand, also felt that the baiting system was an effective alternative. And as long as they were spaced 8 foot or less, that they would be effective. And it's really kind of understanding your situation and applying what's best. Because if your home condition, if you have a lot of moisture and other things that could break down chemicals, applying a perimeter treatment may not be ideal. In that situation, baiting stations might be better. If you have extremely sandy soils and the bait stations are difficult to monitor and manage, perimeter treatments might be a better option. And I think that's where we can provide the information, but ultimately, unfortunately, rather than saying, okay, go out and figure it out and treat your own house, we say you should go to a pest control, because every home is different, and soil conditions, again, landscaping, the structural materials, all of those things are key pieces in coming up with the most effective, practical solution to protecting your home.
Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, I mean, the products themselves are not available to the homeowners, so there's a catch there.
Yep. Yeah, 20 years ago, we had, we did have people that had pretty heavy duty chemicals hidden under their homes and applied it. And we did see interesting and creative termite treatment, do-it-yourself methods, but we definitely, pouring motor oil under your house is not a good way to protect your home. We've come a long way, and yeah, the research and technology definitely is there to be more environmentally friendly and effective at controlling termites. So, and I think through our career, even just my career, I'm sure even more so for Julian, we have seen a reduction in major structural damages, I think, in residential properties. Would you say, Julian?
Yeah, yeah.
That's excellent news. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we are a little over 6:10, no problem, but I'm really, no, it's fine. So I was just gonna wrap things up, and I'm just really thankful to Maria and for Julian for popping in, for answering everybody's questions. And I did put the YouTube link to our CTAR playlist for Ask the Alumni Expert. And so within, by next week, I should have this posted up. So just in case you want to review it or send it to anybody to learn some more things about termites from it, that would be great. And I'll be sending that out to everybody. So just, yeah, thank you very much for coming. And thank you again, Maria, for participating with us in our alumni.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Maria.
Thank you, Julian.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.